Hey, disheveled hair, what's up? It's the culture detective here, having hair issues. I don't know what's going on with my hair. I look like I'm wearing a leather helmet. I look bad. But anyways, today I'm going to be doing a surprise attack movie review on 少林三十六房, or in English, the 36th Chamber, the 36th Chamber of Shaolin from the year 1978, directed by Lao Galeng and written by Ngai Hong. So, yeah, the reason why I'm doing a movie review right now is because originally I planned to do an album review, but I can't do it because I realized that I haven't listened to those albums enough. So I actually originally planned to do a mini albums review today, but unfortunately I can't do that. I'll do that tomorrow then. So instead, let's just do a movie review today, a real quick one, and a movie that I actually legitimately want to talk about. I just finished watching it earlier this morning. Wow. Wow. I didn't expect myself to enjoy this movie this much. It surpassed my expectations way much. It's honestly awesome. And let's talk about the 36th Chamber of Shaolin. I mean, this film is a classic. Let's just get it out there. This film is a classic in Hong Kong, a classic in overseas. It is a classic. It is so iconic that it has inspired the Wu-Tang Clan to name their first album Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. Um, but yeah, this movie is a mixture between Hong Kong action, martial arts, as well as Chinese period drama. Just a perfect combo. And damn, as far as a Hong Kong film in the 70s go, the production value is actually really great. And I like the costumes, I like the sets, the colors are nice, the editing is swift. And one thing that makes this film so 70s is the whip zooms. Like in the beginning of almost every single shot, the camera just zooms out of some object. It's so dynamic. And yeah, it can get a little bit annoying sometimes. And I'm glad that the movie didn't do this for every single shot. It would be exhausting, but it's still very dynamic and action packed and exciting, and I just really love that. This movie is nearly 2 hours long, but not a single minute is wasted. In fact, I think this movie is really fast paced. Like the story of this movie is actually dense enough to be turned into like a mini series or something. A lot has happened in this movie. So the main character of he has two names. Okay, so I'm just gonna refer him to Yu De. So Yu De is our main character in the story, and he's actually likable. One of the issues I have with like these martial arts movies and some of the action movies in Hong Kong is that the characters are not likable at all. They're just stale, two-dimensional wallpaper. They're either angry, full of justice, let's fight, or they're just a sloppy, forgettable mess. But no, the main character of this movie, Yu De, is actually likable because in the beginning he is weak. He is a vulnerable man. He doesn't know shit. He gets his ass beat in the beginning of the movie. And we kind of feel sorry for him and we kind of root for him. And what's also kind of awesome about this movie is that the writer of this film, Ngai Hong, is actually one of the most influential novelists in Hong Kong. He wrote the incredibly famous novel series of Wai Si Lei, which is a detective mystery novel series. And I was actually surprised to learn that he was also the one who wrote the script for this film, and he decided to set the story in the middle of Qing Dynasty, where well, okay, if you're not familiar with Chinese history, let me fill you in. Qing Dynasty is the last dynasty in the history of China, and the second last dynasty is Ming Dynasty. When Ming Dynasty was ruined and Qing Dynasty became the thing, a lot of people were not happy. So there were a lot of political movements where people were like, okay, you know what? Let's overthrow Qing and restore Ming because Ming is better. Ming is from the South. We the South. Um, the story of the 36th Chamber of Shaolin is kind of set in that. The Qing dynasty in the story is oppressive, corrupt, incredibly disgusting, and inhumane. And there were these political movements, including the one famously led by Zhang Zengong, who fled to Taiwan, led a bunch of people and tried to overthrow the government. And of course, the government's like, no, don't overthrow us, you bad. So one of the people saw this and wanted to join the movement. But at that point, pretty much all his companions were already killed or captured. And so the only way for him to survive is to become a monk, learn kung fu, and then go back to town and just become a hero. And that's basically his story. And honestly, it's kind of amazing. I like stories like this where it's a little bit political, not extremely political, but there is a political background to it, and that's awesome. I love Chinese period films. I can't express my love for them enough. This is awesome. And the action in this movie is awesome as well. There's something so 70s about the action, about the fighting in this movie, because the action of Hong Kong 80s cinema is very stylish and gritty and playful. But in the 70s, it is a little bit more primal and very, very well choreographed. The fighting in this movie is more like dancing than actually fighting, which is a style in and of itself, and I really like that. And also, what I love is that every time the main character learns something, like a technique, like again, there are 35 chambers in the Shaolin Temple, and he had to go from the bottom to the top, and it's a very grueling process of a lot of training, a lot of starving, a lot of being beat. But in the first room, he's already struggling. The first room is the monks have to jump over a log on top of a pool of water in order to get to the canteen to eat food. And if you can't jump onto the log and you fall into the water, you get wet, and if you're wet, you can't go into the canteen. So you either are able to float on the log and somehow become lighter than water, or you starve. So that scene is already really interesting, and seeing the main character Yuda struggle, seeing him try to cut corners and cheat, seeing him try to figure things out, is just very fascinating. And then seeing him succeed actually is satisfying. And not only does his character learn something, we also learn something. If you want to do something like that, if you want to float on top of a log, the most important thing is you got to calm down and not focus on the destination, but focus on your stance and your posture and your speed. And that is just awesome. Like, I just didn't expect myself to be so entertained by this movie, but it is incredibly entertaining. It is a lot of fun. And it is an essential Hong Kong film that I highly recommend every single cinephile to check out. It's very accessible, and I can't recommend this movie enough. This is, if you want to get into Hong Kong film, this one, and Infernal Affairs. Watch that one too. So, yeah, I really have no complaints. I actually really love this movie. I'm giving it a strong 8 to a light 9 out of 10. So, have you watched the 36th Chamber of Shaolin from 1 to 10? Just rate it, like it, and subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching.